I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm going to strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you plays you.
Yeah, but
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's going to break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9. Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. So glad you're joining us here for the final podcast of the year of 2022. MHA Podcast. Thanks for joining us here. What could we possibly be talking about this far out of the season? Well, we're going to look back on some of our predictions, especially in the preseason. Of course, we had our sleepers, our busts. We had some bold predictions. And so we'll look back on all of those and see where we were right, where we were very, very wrong. There's plenty on both sides, so it should be a fun show. But also, a special guest with us today, the owner of the Eaton W squad. We'll talk about his season, how it kind of went for him. Of course, his fantasy squad. We'll talk about his real squad in the Buccaneers. Some breaking news here today. And it'll help us reflect on this past 2022 fantasy football season. So let's welcome in Kevin Hall. K-Hall, what's going on? How you doing over there in California, buddy?
Oh, just dandy over here.
Dandy.
Just great. Yeah, it's great to be on talking with you and Mikey. And I guess Todd.
Oh, yeah, he comes on every once in a while.
Yeah, he'll say a line every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
things are good.
Good. Glad to hear that. We were talking before. The missus is doing well. How's the weather out there? It's been a little chilly and had some snow that's still out and about, but we're going to hit the 50s here this weekend. But how is things in California?
Oh, it's been pouring rain for like a straight month.
Oh, a straight month, huh?
Yeah, it's been very wet, but then like, I mean, it's been pretty cold down here too. Like,
okay,
low 50s, maybe high 40s in the morning.
Oh, it's
the
not
negative
terrible.
12 here in the mornings.
Oh,
yeah, but we get
you know what?
we get humid, so it's a little bit colder. It feels like.
Yeah, humid does definitely affect the cold as well as the heat. But poor Todd had to wake up early, go to jury duty today. Drove in his almost new car with the
He's a
heat,
trooper.
but it was still
He's
cold.
a trooper.
But he made it, didn't you? Made it, didn't you?
You know what? I had to. I just can't win.
Tough. He's tough, man. It gets cold here in Colorado.
You want a trial now?
No, I didn't.
Oh, they quickly turned him away.
No, no. I made it through the first wave, and then the second wave, they just said the cases were settled, so they just sent everybody home.
So avoided it. Way to go, Todd Diamond.
Yeah. America.
So let's talk to Kevin a little bit. I don't know where you want to start, K-Hall, if you want to talk about the Buccaneers. Of course, they lost their starting quarterback today who retired, of course, Thomas Brady. Or would you like to talk about your fantasy season? What do you prefer to start off with?
Well, I mean, I think the Bucks are the freshest thing right now. So
Sure,
I think
yeah,
that's probably
topical.
the best one. Before Brady came to the Bucks, I hated his guts. But it's weird what winning a Super Bowl for you does to liking a person. As soon as he came on the team, I was a big Brady fan, and I don't know if I'm like sad to see him go just because he kind of sucked this past year, but like that wasn't all on him. It was a lot of coaching.
Coaching, huh?
Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of Byron Leftwich. He just could not make adjustments at all throughout the season, and it just looked like poor play calling. Like their best offensive outputs always came in like hurry up offenses. So Leftwich wasn't doing anything on that. It was all Brady. But at the end of the day, like Brady couldn't throw little out route passes to his huge receivers. So
Yeah.
Thanks for the Super Bowl, but it was time to move on.
Yeah, I think, someone who had Tom Brady in his fantasy team, there was frustrations to say the least, but his completions racked up a ton and helped me pull out a couple wins, including a playoff win over the dreaded roommate over here in Aaron. But yeah, so the Buccaneers, what's next? I mean, do they have a quarter? I don't even know who their backup is these days. And are they going to go out and draft a guy? What do you think is going to take place with their quarterback situation?
I think they're going to try and get some sort of low-level QB in free agency because, I mean, right now, the only QB they have on the roster is Kyle Trask.
Oh, goodness.
Just because Blaine Gabbert, he's going to be a free agent, and they might try and bring back Blaine Gabbert because it's like, oh, you can come and compete for a starting spot here in a weak division, and you're going to be super cheap. Or they go after like lower level guys like Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield or Jacoby Brissett. But this is
Yikes.
definitely going to be a rough year. They're in pretty bad shape when it comes to salary cap, just because they signed a bunch of guys and they just backloaded a lot of the guaranteed money.
Oh, man.
So all of that is coming back like these next like 2 years, and there's going to be a lot of dead cap. So it could be a Chicago Bears situation where they just eat it all this year, and then next year they come back with just hundreds of $1 million in cap space. But in an ideal situation, you trim some of the dead weight with cap. You're terrible this year. Your window's closed in terms of Super Bowl. Wait for another window, and then you get like a top 5 pick and try and get Caleb Williams next year, or the guy from North Carolina, like May or whatever like that.
Drake May.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, like they're not going to draft a QB this year, I don't think, because they're just going to have too many other holes to fill. Like you can go out and get somebody who's going to limp his way through the season at quarterback, but like you'd rather have someone at a long-term position like corner or defensive line or offensive line that can help you way longer, because if you sign Jacoby Brissett, like he's not going to be your long-term answer.
At least you hope not.
Yeah.
It's always interesting coming off a Super Bowl, and I feel like the Rams were very similar in this and trying to keep that window open for another year. You win a Super Bowl, and then everybody's like, well, I want more money. I got my ring. Now I need to make sure I'm secure on the financial end of things. And then you talk about backloading so they could sign other guys to come in and help out. And then it just blows up in your face. And then you're in a tough spot the next couple of years. And I feel like that kind of happened with the Rams too this year. We're like, well, we still have the window. We could still bring guys in. And then they were just, Rams obviously were terrible this year too. In terms of what they were coming off of. So I guess that's just the way of the NFL world and the way it kind of works and the money and the situation. But it's nice to have that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, Super Bowl windows are so weird, like how
Yeah.
quickly they can open and close like that. It's like the Bucs had 2 solid years of Brady. Like they definitely could have gone to the Super Bowl last year, if not for like 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah.
And then it just all can go downhill so fast. So when teams have that window, like you throw everything you can at that to keep that window open and get that chance at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see how everything pans out. As Bronco fans, we had it rough this year. I'm sure you saw that from your side of the world.
Letting Russ cook.
Yeah, exactly. And he burned the meals quite a bit this year. He was not good. Speaking of breaking news, they just got their new head coach here today. I can't remember when it was. Everything's busy this week. So we'll see how everything gets turned around. If Sean, a lot of people are talking about Sean Payton and what he can do. And if anybody can fix the offense, it's him. So fingers crossed, because this was not a fun year, to say the least. Kevin, let's talk about your fantasy season. You can talk about what went right, what went wrong. You started the season 2-4, so a little rough there. I know Lamar Jackson had his ups and downs and injuries. Then you reeled out 4 straight wins. We were all talking about your 3-headed monster of running backs. You talk about Derrick Henry and Dameon Pierce. You ended up trading for Nick Chubb. And so, and then down the stretch, the 0-3-1. So some of your thoughts when you look back on this year for your team.
Oh, yeah. QB play definitely played a huge part because, like, this is the one league where you need to have just solid quarterback play week in and week out. And I could not get that with Lamar Jackson. Then he had injury issues. And so then I'm trying to pick up guys on the waiver wire or try and trade for them. Like, I think you and I had discussions about Justin Fields one week.
We did.
That didn't go anywhere because it's just like, oh, like, do I want to give up just for 1 week of Justin Fields because Lamar Jackson's going to be back and he didn't come back, and so I'm starting Jared Goff or Daniel Jones. But yeah, I did make that trade with Miles to get Nick Chubb. That was I'm surprised I didn't go on the better moves of the MHA awards. It was on the worst moves, but it was
that's right.
worse on Miles. It was on Miles' worst part because I thought it was great.
Yeah, for sure, and we all thought so at the time.
But
continue.
Yeah, so having both Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, who I think I'm looking here like last week of the season, I didn't even start Derrick Henry.
Is that because he was injured, or
he might have been injured? But I mean, yeah, I don't think he started that game. But then, like, yeah, I had Dameon Pierce, and he was going well, and then he got injured. And then I picked up Raheem Mostert. He was going well for a while, and then he was injured. And then I couldn't get a consistent wide receiver one because DK Metcalf, he was injured for a little bit. And so then I'm throwing out Michael Pittman or Deontay Johnson, who's not doing dilly squat. And then I'm just like, okay, I don't even know who the hell to go. And then at the end of the day, like, one of my best pickups was Chigozium Okonkwo. Like,
that's right.
One of the weeks. Like, I picked up that. Yeah, I picked up that sucker. And just like, you know what started as such a promising little first half of the season, like, yeah, those 4 straight wins and then loss, tie, which I want to get into the ties, loss. Yeah, and then missed the playoffs.
Just barely. You had to win. I think if you would have won that last game, you would have been in, right? I think that's how it kind of played out.
Yeah, I was winning in, and let's see, what did I lose by?
Was red hot, or he kind of came red hot off of that week or the week before, and ended up winning the whole darn thing. So you lost to the eventual national champs, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I lost 162-137. I actually had a good game from Goff, but then he had Tony Pollard, who went crazy that day.
Yeah.
Mostert got 4. He had Samuel. Everyone he had that week just scored a touchdown. It was just absurd. Like, every time I was watching Red Zone, they go to a guy, it's someone that Gonzo had.
Those are the worst feelings. It just piles on. Another guy touchdown, another touchdown, and you're waiting for your phone to give you the update or the notification like your guy scored a touchdown, but you just see it on the Red Zone that his guys, or Devonta Smith, again, another touchdown.
Yeah, just can't win, huh, Todd?
Yeah, that's right. Just can't win. It's a motto that I should just have tattooed on on my arm.
Right next to your beak to beak tattoo.
Yeah, that's your beak to beak.
Yeah,
I was talking to someone about that the other day. Some beak to beak.
I'll get that tattoo.
Tough question for you, Kay, but would you do something different with this year's draft? Or you talked about struggles at quarterback. Would you go and get one earlier? I mean, you drafted Lamar in the 8th, so you were willing to wait. And obviously a lot of things panned out because Dameon Pierce was great. You had Patterson. You ended up trading and Cooper for Chubb. And so, I mean, would you try to draft a quarterback sooner, or what would you change if you could, if you looking back on it all?
I probably would have drafted a quarterback sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I wouldn't have done? I wouldn't have drafted Javonte Williams. Because that didn't work out for anybody. I totally forgot I even drafted him.
Yeah, second round.
Looking at it right now.
Don't tell Eric and Todd that.
And then Michael Pittman in the 3rd. Like, ugh.
Well, and that's something. Because it was definitely someone that Todd myself definitely liked, and he was coming off. I mean, obviously looking back,
I know,
hindsight, right,
Matt
2020,
Ryan,
but
man.
I think there was so much upside for Pittman, and
Yeah.
I mean, he had such a great rookie year. Yeah, but I mean, we talked about with Carson Wentz. Like, he was good with Carson Wentz, and he's not that good of a quarterback. And he didn't have a bad season. He had 99 receptions. He just the touchdowns didn't come as often, and obviously with Jonathan Taylor kind of being a bust this year or injured, and the offense didn't go very well, and the defense, like a lot of things went wrong with the entire team. Coaching got fired, so I think it's I think Deontay Johnson obviously didn't work out. I thought DK Metcalf was great for you at the end.
I mean, I had 3 straight wide receivers. I went Pittman, Deontay Johnson, and Metcalf when I could have gotten like Jalen Waddle or AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I should have definitely gotten a tight end sooner. Like, I think I was texting you during the draft. I waited till like the late rounds to get a tight end, and I'm going
round
Hayden Hurst,
and then Evan Ingram the next round,
who I think I dropped like pretty quickly after.
Yeah,
just because he wasn't doing anything. But like, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'll get a tight end. Like, maybe I'll get a guy like Hunter Henry or Gerald Everett, Mike Gesicki, and then as soon as I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a tight end, there was a run on tight ends. I'm just like, Jesus. So it left me with Hayden Hurst and Evan Ingram.
And I don't think that's a bad move. If you don't get one of the top 3 or 4 guys, like, what's the point? Like, when you get to like the 5th, 6th guys, what's the difference between 5th and 6th and 12th and 13th? You know, they're all kind of, less than average fantasy producers, I guess, if that's the right term, that are going to get you maybe a 5 to 6 a week if they get it lucky with a touchdown. So I don't think that's a bad strategy because, I mean, you ended up using Amari Cooper for trade, and he was pretty good this year, and Mostert had its time, and Drake London had his week. So you were building depth. There's nothing wrong with depth because injuries happen or people flame out like Deontay Johnson. So it's not a bad strategy. There's not a lot of great tight ends to try to grab at the top anyway. But I mean, that's the life of the tight end in fantasy anywho. But
yeah, so like, I guess I'd like to say that I would have taken a quarterback sooner, but I honestly don't know who I would have gone with. Like, maybe Herbert or like Burrow.
Sure.
Because otherwise it's kind of just like a crapshoot. Like, Russell Wilson went in the 5th round. And...
Whoops. Yeah, and I mean, and if you were high on Jackson and you got him in the 8th round, and if and I was high on Jackson, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in this what went wrong for Eric. But if he would have been anything of what I envisioned, what you envisioned, 8th round is great value for a quarterback, while you did well on the other side of things. So, again, that's the luck of the draw. You don't know what's going to happen, and you figured he's going to be healthy this year. So, yeah, I mean, looking back at your team, I didn't hate your team by any stretch, but just some things didn't work out. But that's a lot of our teams.
I mean, yeah, like first 3 weeks for Lamar Jackson was 42 points, 68 points, 64 points.
Yeah.
And then
good at that point.
A string of 30s, an 18, and then back to a 52 when he played the Bucks. And then
That's
predictable.
Yeah. Then 30s, 40s, and then injured.
Yeah. So is he someone, this might be a silly question, but is he someone you think about next year? Lamar Jackson?
I don't think so. I mean, it depends on, because the Ravens don't have any weapons. Yeah. Like, they don't have anyone on the outside. Like, they have Mark Andrews, but he dealt with injuries. But, like, I think I was definitely expecting more out of the supporting cast for Lamar Jackson to, like, carry him. But unless something major happens in free agency, I'm staying away from Lamar Jackson.
Mikey will tell you that's the smartest move, because Mikey is definitely not on the Lamar Jackson train. For someone who had Mark Andrews, I went drafted in the 3rd round. Definitely disappointed. Didn't matter if it was Lamar Jackson or Huntley. He just did not. He did not produce. He was great in the first 4 or 5 weeks, but then was definitely disappointing late. So,
Pro Bowl quarterback Huntley.
Oh, get out! He ended up being in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, because everyone else is either injured
geez,
or
the
whatnot.
Pro Bowls
So Tyler Huntley. I think the quarterbacks for the AFC are Trevor Lawrence, Tyler Huntley, and Derek Carr.
Wow. And Derek, so no, and do they wear? And back in the olden days, I don't follow the Pro Bowl much anymore. They used to wear their helmets. So
it's
is Derek
flag
Carr going to
football.
wear a
What do they need
Raiders
helmets
helmet?
for?
Is he even with the squad anymore? Like, does he just wear a blank helmet? Like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, they're not wearing
Oh,
helmets
that's true.
anymore.
There
It's
you
a
go.
weird,
See?
weird fancy or weird Pro Bowl games now.
Yeah, I don't pay too much attention. I don't think there's anything they could do that would get me excited to watch it.
Well, so this weekend, strap in.
Well, and luckily I'll be covering some MSU Denver baseball, so I don't have to worry about that.
I'd rather watch the Pro Bowl.
Oh, come on, man. You're I was in a class talking you up today, you and Peter, talking about how much you guys loved MSU Denver, and that's why you guys are in the great places you are now, because of the time and effort you put in, and you're just done with MSU Denver. Is that what you're saying?
No, just baseball in general.
Oh,
you remember all those times you were listening to the tapes in the parking garage.
Yeah, or watching the tapes of you flipping me off because you guys hated being in that hot box. But I mean, you've seen our new facility. We now have a 3-camera shoot. We were out there trying to set up a camera so we can have a center field cam, so it, have the pitcher and the hitter and the ump and all that stuff in the shot. Graphics, commercials. It's a lot better than when you were around.
Back in my day.
Back in your day, when we had 1-camera shoots, we didn't even do broadcasts for baseball. We just got highlights.
We had to just do tapes.
Tapes. That's right, sir. Tapes. People don't even know.
No, the VTR machine's broken.
I know. There's a blip in the tape. We got to redo the whole tape. We got to go back and redo it. Oh, man. Those are some days, man. We lived in the office. All right. Well, we're going to continue on. We're going to talk about predictions that Mikey, Todd, and myself made, but Kevin's going to stick around and chime in and tell us how stupid we were for liking some of these guys. So I don't know how we want to start this. Let's do it this way. Todd, I don't know how much you went back or listened to those early podcasts of this season, but where were you incredibly right? Where do you think you were the most right this season?
The only thing I was right about was Garrett Wilson. For just because the fact I thought he was going to be the best rookie wide receiver out of this class. He had 1,000 yards receiving. I think he was like the first Jet wide receiver to do that in a while. So I'll go with Garrett Wilson. I think next year he'll go. I mean, he's not gonna go in the first round by any means, but I think he might go mid fourth, early fourth, late third. I think just because he proved it with 3 different quarterbacks: Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson, who I want to punch in his face. But that's for a different story because I was so high on him. But I'll go with Garrett Wilson. That one I was right about.
I'll have to agree with you on that one. Going back to those podcasts and listening, and you mentioned Garrett Wilson a few different podcasts, and he ended up finishing 21st. I think, it was kind of part of the board bet that we had in which rookie wide receiver would score the most points. And you had Garrett Wilson, and he ended up finishing first amongst all of them. So we'll talk about the rest of that board back later on. But yeah, I agree. Well done, Todd. For someone who watches more college football than Mikey or myself, you were pretty high on him, and even mentioned at one point that he should have been. I think you said he should have been the first wide receiver
taken.
Yeah, in terms of the actual NFL draft.
Yeah, because he was the second wide receiver taken. Yep.
Yeah.
Who was first?
Right,
Olave?
No, Olave. Olave was the third one.
Dotson?
No,
Is
it was
right?
No, it was
I guess we have technology. We can look it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I thought they said Dotson was. But...
Oh, it's Drake London.
Drake London.
There you go. Yeah, that's who I had down on this list.
And then Wilson, and the next pick was Olave.
Yeah.
So So well done in that regards,
Ooh,
Todd.
where do I start?
Mikey, who do you think you were the most right about in some of your preseason predictions?
Okay.
Oh,
All
come
right.
on
So
now.
I'm going
Oh,
to
here
bring
we
this
go.
one because it also
The most
includes where
humble
Eric was
man.
wrong.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly right.
we even got a little testy about this one, and then this was about DJ Moore and how bad he is. Because you thought I was so you thought
Oh
I was
boy.
so out of line for having him like low 30s in my rankings,
Yep.
and you said that I don't even know what brought up AJ Brown in the conversation, but like said they don't even belong anywhere close to each other, and you told me I was out of my mind. Yeah, because I said I thought AJ Brown had the better situation with the Eagles, which you thought was
I
absurd.
did.
Turns out I was right about all that stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I said Mikey was completely wrong
Yeah.
when we were talking about it because we were talking. I think the question was, I don't know if it was DJ Moore and AJ Brown, or it might have been
somebody
it might have been
else.
someone else, and then AJ Brown, and then DJ Moore kind of got involved, and then we went at it. And DJ Moore finished 26th.
Yeah.
So higher than where Mikey had him.
Mm-hmm.
But he did finish 26 in 17 games because Mikey had him 34th. Mikey said, oh, no, I think what I said was that was a slap to the face of DJ Moore because Mikey had him so low in his rankings.
Yeah, but
and
come
while
on,
he did
dude.
finish higher
Like
than
DJ
34th,
Moore
he
stat
did not
padded
finish
those.
higher than AJ Brown.
DJ Moore
finished,
stat padded those
fifth
last couple weeks. Otherwise, he would have been like in the
overall.
40s.
So I was wrong. It doesn't matter. It's what he was at the end of the season. I don't want to hear your nonsense.
I mean, dude was trotting out
that was my
QBs
point.
like Sam Darnold. Like,
preach it, Kevin. Preach it.
no, that I'm saying I'm on Mikey's side.
What?
Like, if you're going between AJ Brown and DJ Moore, I will take Jalen Hurts over Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield or
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker. Yeah, see, I can't remember the guy's name. And
now, what's the difference? What's the difference between his quarterback the previous year? He had a bad quarterback the previous year, and he still put up solid numbers.
I think they had Robbie Anderson, so he was able to take a little bit of coverage.
Oh,
but
Robbie
when you're
Anderson, that's who we're talking about here.
I'm just saying, when you're the only option on the Panthers offense, like they're going to focus on you.
Yeah,
DJ Moore. What was he? 19th the year before. Young guy, 93 receptions. And and honest, let's just keep going with that.
Oh no,
because I was incredibly wrong about the Eagles too. In general. I was not high on the Eagles at all.
Well, I think we were. I think we were all
ahead,
over that because I think we were all because we didn't think Miles Sanders like previous years. Miles Sanders has been straight garbage, and yeah, I mean, at least the wide receiver core bringing in AJ Brown, would help a little bit. But the running back situation was just god awful because at the end of the day, the previous seasons, I think it was probably the lowest handoffs and carries to Miles Sanders I've ever seen to a running back because Jalen Hurts was running the ball. So yeah, we had every right to be skeptical about Miles Sanders. Like, well, is Miles Sanders going to do anything? I mean, some degree, I was hoping the Eagles would trade him somewhere where he'd actually, maybe they'd get more out of him. But this year, he had some decent games.
Some decent games. He was incredible this year. He finished 12th overall. I had Jalen Hurts ranked 14th coming into the season, AJ Brown ranked 13th, and Miles Sanders 34th. And boy, did they make me look stupid this year. Definitely not up on the Eagles. All right, Todd, give me another one that you remember you were right about. Actually, I need to give you one that I was right about. Hold on.
Okay.
Because you guys just crapped all over me on this last one. Deservingly so. Where do I want to go? I think I was higher than on Mr. Saquon Barkley than the rest of the bunch. I think the big conversation I had with Barkley was this is a guy that could win you the league. We were talking about guys. You guys had him in the late teens, early 20s, and I had him at like 12th or 13th. And I was like, well, you got to give Barkley a chance because some of these other guys aren't going to be able to put up the type of numbers that he can. And obviously all the injuries, affected how we looked at him, and people had Zeke over him. And that was the conversation was Barkley, if things go right for him, he's still young enough that he can come back and have a great season. And he was pretty phenomenal this year. Didn't help, he was great in terms of what he did for Cooper's Cousins, but obviously Cooper's Cousins had some other issues with his team, so he's not the reason. But to finish, what did he finish? 6th overall, 1,300 yards, 10 total touchdowns, even had 57
Agreed.
receptions. I could toot my own horn about Saquon Barkley. Way to go, Eric. Thanks, Eric. You're the best.
Good job.
Good job.
Yeah. All right, Todd, back to you. Anything else that stood out to you about being right here in 2022?
Well, I mean, I guess this is kind of, I don't know, we were maybe all right about, we were all right, but I still said, I put Devontae Adams as the number 1 wide receiver in my rankings. And we thought, well, he's going to Oakland. He's going from, Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. Devontae Adams didn't finish number 1, but
Sure didn't.
Sure didn't. But he still, I mean, people thought there was going to be a little bit of there was going to be maybe a big drop off, maybe, but he still finished at least in the top 10.
Third. He finished 3rd overall.
3rd. So that's, I mean, yeah, it's not first. That was, but at least Devontae Adams is quarterback proof that he doesn't,
I mean, but you take away weeks 9, 10, 11, like he really did not have a good season.
It's because Derek Carr was starting to get a little disgruntled a little bit because they thought they were, that they were gonna, obviously they let him go, so that kind of diminished a little bit of it. But Devontae Adams still, I mean, he finished 3rd in our league. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, I know it's not first like I predicted he was going to, but that's still pretty good from going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. That's pretty good. I chalked that up as a little mini win right there, but I'll toot my horn on that one by myself in a corner. But that's okay.
Well, no,
Mikey, do you want to say something?
I'll save what I'm going to say
about
when
Devontae Adams. I mean, you had him number 1 too, but it sounded like you wanted to say something.
Listening to the podcast that I'm about to eat him up for.
Okay. I don't think that I'll finish things off with Devontae Adams, and if Kevin wanted to say something, you can. But when we're talking about wide receivers in the first round, I don't think any of us thought he was going to finish 15th or 20th. Like, I think when we're talking about those guys, we're nitpicking about who's going to finish first, who's going to finish second, who's going to finish third. And so, that was my argument against Adams was he's in a new system with a new quarterback who has a new head coach. That's why I was higher on Jefferson than Adams, is because he was in a similar situation with the same quarterback, and they have a new head coach, and so some things changed for them a little bit. But those are the type of things that I thought about when putting up my rankings. And I still think Adams had a great season. He definitely shit the bed in the playoffs for Aaron at the end, where if Carr was disgruntled or whatnot, but those are some of the things when we're nitpicking, like how are we going to decide? Like, no one's mad that Devontae Adams went in the 2nd round as the 5th or 6th wide receiver. We know his talents on the field, but he also can't throw the ball to himself. So those are the type of things we think about in that regard. But fine, if Todd wants to pat himself on the back for Devontae Adams, whatever. I picked Cooper Kupp, and he was rolling. We talked about that before, and then he got hurt. Go ahead, Mikey. Who are you right about?
So this one is me and Eric were both right about, and that was
hooray! It doesn't happen that often.
But Todd was very, very wrong, and that was Kyle Pitts.
Yes, sir.
Me and Eric did not like him. Todd, with what you were saying about Devontae Adams, it made me laugh because I wrote down. You said Kyle Pitts is quarterback proof.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Yeah, you
I
said it's going to
remember
be.
saying that.
Yeah, you said he's quarterback proof. It's going to be a breakout year. He would have 8 to 9 touchdowns.
That's what I have on my sheet here.
Well, maybe
Check the
I don't
tapes.
remember that.
maybe I was assuming that Desmond Ritter was going to be the quarterback and not Marcus Mariota either.
Well, you said,
But-
if you said he's quarterback proof, doesn't matter who's the quarterback.
I could be his quarterback.
Sure.
Kyle Pitts was bad.
Yeah, me and Eric were not sold on. I think it had to do with Atlanta's offense, their coach, their team, whatever. But we didn't like him, and it turned out, I mean, he was pretty shitty.
Yes, he was, Todd.
Fine.
Todd has nothing to say. All right, so we'll move on to me. I'll give you one more that I was right about. What stood out? The conversation we had, I think I asked a question about ranking 3 wide receivers in a row. We had Jefferson, we had Jamar Chase, and we had Stephon Diggs. And so I had Jefferson first, and I know Mikey and I were kind of going back and forth between Chase and Jefferson. And my big argument was that Jefferson's target share is so much bigger than Chase's. Chase had a great year the year before, and he wasn't even close in terms of targets. And then Jefferson would go on to have 184 targets this season. Chase did miss some games, so that kind of excused some of the things. But even, at the beginning of the season when everybody was kind of healthy, I mean, Jefferson obviously finished as the number 1 wide receiver and was stellar despite only having 8 touchdowns. But I love when I always go to battle with Mikey because, I mean, we always have good arguments and how do we one up the other? And I was able to kind of ride the Justin Jefferson. What I saw from last year, he was able to do it this year. And so there's that. Jefferson over Jamar.
Can't
Love
argue that.
No. All right. And we could talk about more about the stuff, in terms of where we were wrong. And maybe I'll just go through some of these quickly. Todd did say Jerry Jeudy over Cortland Sutton. So Judy finished 24th, Sutton 42nd. So there's that. Todd was high on Christian Watson, said he should have been a first-round pick in terms of the actual NFL draft. One thing he also, I thought was big is he would take Waddle over Mike Evans. And I said that was nutty. And I was wrong on that. Mikey also said he wouldn't take Waddle over Evans. But we saw how that finished up. Mikey was big on no faith in Matt Ryan, although Pittman was a little productive, but Matt Ryan was pretty bad. His favorite rookie running back was Breece Hall. One of his, I don't know if it was a hot take. Yeah, it was a hot take. Kyler Murray would finish outside the top 10. Burrow in the offense would throw more this year, and he was 4th in quarterbacks amongst completions. I know that was something I was kind of anti-Burrow, or not anti-Bengals, but I thought they would run the ball more. That definitely didn't happen. Mikey was right about, I asked him about Akers or Henderson, and he said Akers, and it was Akers 132 to 60. So there's that as well.
I mean, I don't even take that as a win. They were both bad.
They were both bad, yes, but that was just I'm trying to hype you up here. Relax, calm down. I was pretty high on George Pickens. He had a pretty solid year considering where he was, and Claypool, what a garbage that was for sure.
Todd liked Claypool.
You liked Claypool?
Nobody liked Claypool.
Todd liked Claypool.
I know Todd did, but you didn't, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, we could do a whole show on where Todd was wrong, but let's not do that. I wasn't high on Michael Thomas. I know someone else who was. We'll talk about that here in a second. We had a conversation about, I said, who would you rather have, Michael Pittman or T. Higgins? Who finished with more points, ladies and gentlemen?
T. Higgins.
Michael Pittman, 164 to 163.
I wonder who averaged more, though.
I don't know. I didn't do that math. We'll continue on. Last thing, I was pretty high on Amon-Ra St. Brown as a wide receiver sleeper. He was pretty good. Okay. Where we were wrong. Should I point him out, or Todd, do you want to talk about where you were wrong this year?
My whole team.
I'll let you try to defend yourself. Your whole team.
My whole team. see Najee Harris, I'm gonna punch him in his face. Russell
Yeah,
Wilson.
we talked about that ad nauseum. What else you got?
Russell Wilson. Sean Payton better fix Russell Wilson or whatever, because that shit is not even cool. Reality or fantasy, I don't care. Najee Harris and Russell Wilson. That's pretty much sums up my big L and grossness of my team that was the Butterfingers this year. So
the grossness of the team, that was the Butterfingers. Interesting. You got a couple more. We'll get back to it. Kevin?
I'm just looking at Todd's team, like also drafting Julio or starting Julio Jones too. Wasn't great.
That's a big one. That's one I have here too. His love for Julio Jones. He said it reminds him of the Moss to the Patriots deal.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no.
So in love with Julio. And I even said on the podcast, and Todd says, well, I'm surprised that Kevin didn't draft him. And I said, well, that's because Kevin knows what he's talking about. He knows.
I know my team.
That's how it ended up.
But I thought at least you attach Julio Jones to Tom Brady. It changes the player.
Right now.
The plan was
what was it?
To have Julio be a better red zone target. Like they lost Gronk, so bring in Julio and have him be like the quote unquote like tight end fixture in that offense in the red zone. Problem was the Bucs could never get in the red zone, so that kind of just takes out Julio right there.
Just 2 touchdowns all year for Julio,
and then he was injured for like 90% of the year.
Yeah, which has been pretty much his MO the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but
Julio Jones.
In terms of things like that I got wrong, I probably have to go with like Drake London. I was high on him, and I think all of my leagues I drafted Drake London. And he just never quite got it this season.
Well, he's a rookie.
Sure, but like
I thought he was going to this year.
I thought he was going to be like the Amon-Ra type thing of like a rookie quarter or a rookie wide receiver, where he was just going to be like the guy to like win you your leagues. Like he was going to get touchdowns every other week, get like 7 catches for like 77 yards like every time, but then Mariota, he was bad, and so he didn't get consistent quarterback play because like he was targeted like a decent amount, but he just never materialized into what I thought he would be in terms of like I picked him up as a sleeper, late rounds flyer, just like, you know what, I think he's going to be good. Start him at the flex spot a couple of times, and he'll win me a couple of matchups, but he just never was good in when I needed him.
Gosh, Kevin, you're such an idiot. No,
I know, right? Let's just quit the league.
You've been demoted. We're going to put someone else in here.
Put me in the minors. I'll win my way back in.
There you go. I love it. Well, that means I have to create a whole minor league squad. Oh, that sounds awful. Mikey, where were you wrong this year? I know what you're going to say.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to get the obvious out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
Elijah,
you have 2 big ones.
Well, Elijah Moore's the biggest one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Where did you have him in your rankings in preseason?
I think it was 10th.
10th. Said he'd have better numbers than Keenan Allen.
I did.
And Eric said that was reckless to have him ranked that high. Reckless.
It was, but I was glad that I didn't end up with him.
Yeah, who did? Me. No, I didn't have him ranked 10th. I didn't have draft him in the first few rounds. I drafted him in the later rounds, but yeah, that was definitely, that mind boggled me. Even Aaron, who, understands like looking outside the box probably more than I do, he was kind of like perplexed when you really hyped up the Elijah Moore train. And your big thing was talking about like he had a 4-week span where no one could cover him. And that might be an anomaly at the end of the day.
Look, all I was trying to do is like usually there's like one or two like out of the box candidates that kind of show their way up there. I was like, well, okay, I'll take a stab here. Oof.
Stabbed yourself by accident.
Yeah, didn't turn out well.
We kind of talked about, for me, the Eagles. We talked about the AJ Brown stuff. I mean, we talked about the bust candidate of the year, Mark Andrews, where both you and Todd had Kelsey number 1 and I had Andrews number 1. That didn't finish well for me. Miles Sanders was bad. He ended up finishing 12th overall. A couple of guys that we were all wrong about, Geno Smith. I don't know if anybody, I don't even know if Kevin had Geno Smith on their radar at the beginning of the year. We all thought Drew Lock was going to be the number 1 guy. So even going back to these podcasts, we never mentioned him other than who cares about Geno Smith. And he ended up finishing pretty decent in terms of quarterbacks and, whoops on our part there. The other one, none of us were pretty high on Josh Jacobs, and he finished all right. Led the league in rushing, finished 3rd amongst all running backs. So there's that. What else did Todd be wrong about? Oh, here's one. So with Tyreek Hill leaving, Patrick Mahomes will have a drop-off this year. I promise you that. And Mahomes was better than ever last year. What's that, Kay?
That's a bold statement.
Last year, Patrick Mahomes, 860 points. This year, 917. It was even better without Tyreek Hill.
I was wrong. Wrong again.
That needs to be in the next year's intro. That's how I was going to start. I was wrong.
I mean, when you're trotting out so much better wide receivers this year, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster, you can't go wrong.
Travis Kelce was pretty awesome this year. Mikey, what's another wrong one for you?
For me, probably Michael Thomas.
Oh yeah. Where did you have him ranked in the preseason?
It was somewhere in the top 25. I don't recall.
8th.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
8th overall. Now that was under the assumption he was going to be healthy, but at that time you had him ranked, and maybe you changed it as we got closer to the draft. But boy, you were talking him up pretty good. Good old Michael Thomas. And I mean, he eventually got out there, but I don't think he was ever himself. And then he just got hurt again.
Hey, when he was healthy for the one game. No,
well, yeah, I think that's part of it. Coming off serious injury, and you think he had a whole year to kind of get through that, and they needed him for sure. Although Olave came in and played pretty well, but he just may not be the same wide receiver that he once was, as the number 1 overall, and had one of the best fantasy wide receiver seasons up until Cooper Kupp last year, or a couple of years ago, excuse me. So there's that. The last thing I'll say about me being wrong was I went on this long spiel about how Christian McCaffrey needs to have his touches managed. If he was ever going to survive until the playoffs, he would need to be on some sort of pitch count in terms of touches and carries and catches. And, so he did all right for himself. He finished 2nd overall and ended up going to the playoffs all healthy I think obviously being traded was huge. They were able to run out some running backs, but man, that dude's impressive. He may be, 1, 2 in terms of next year draft pick. So I was definitely wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
What else? We talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Todd. I know Todd was. Todd also said he thought Travis Etienne would be in running back bust, and he did pretty well this year. Although he kind of, filtered off towards the end. Mikey, last thing I'll say about him, Allen Robinson, he was big on him.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it, is what he said. I love the move. No better place to go. Unfortunately, that whole Rams team was toilet.
I mean, what? Kevin will tell you LA's a nice place, right? Sunshine.
Yeah, it's
that's
great.
Why. Outside of the football field, out of SoFi.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you
I hear
go.
the parking's terrible there anyway.
Is it really? You mean tell me they didn't build a big ass parking lot over there?
Oh, they did, but I guess it's terrible to get in and out of. I don't know. I've never been to SoFi yet.
Haven't been there yet, huh?
Yep.
All right. Anything else you were wrong about, Kay, or right about?
I'd say the dynamic between Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. I was pretty high on DeAndre Swift this year. Like I thought he was going to be like the main guy, and then Jamal Williams just comes in and just touchdown after touchdown.
Oh, the guy I was right about. I'm sorry. No, he was.
This isn't about you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not always about me. But yeah, no, that was a great. That was a. He ended up breaking the Barry Sanders record for touchdowns in a season. So I mean, to me, it was just DeAndre Swift looks like he's hurt. I better pick up the backup because they like to run the ball. Thanks, Hard Knocks. That's what I'll say about that. Love that show.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, or I didn't see Tony Pollard outscoring Zeke.
And that was a little nutty. We saw Tony Pollard show glimpses the previous year, but I didn't expect him to go this bananas.
Yeah, and he's probably going to get paid like from some team looking for a new running back this offseason.
You don't think Dallas will keep him?
That's hard to say because I mean, like, they probably have so many guys they're going to need to pay soon that I think they might just roll with Zeke and draft a running back.
Man, that's wild. But I mean, that's probably true. I mean, they let Amari Cooper. They traded him out of town, so because they were going to have to pay him $20 million or whatever it was, and
eventually you'll have to pay CeeDee Lamb. You know he's going to ask for the Brinks truck, so
we'll see how that goes. Let's go through these board bets real quick. We're coming up close to an hour. The one board bet we had was between Todd and Mikey. Who was going to be the starting quarterback? Who was going to take the first snap for the Atlanta Falcons? Was it going to be Ritter? Was it going to be Mariota? And I think we all know the answer by this point. Good job, Miguel.
Oof. That one was the easy one. I don't know why Todd was so high on Desmond Ritter.
Hey, Desmond Ritter looked decent toward the end of the season. I think I'm not gonna make any more bets because I'm just not good at that stuff as much.
Not true. You do have a board bet win. We'll get to it here in a second, though.
All right.
But I mean, maybe you weren't high on Ritter as much as maybe you were just really low on Mariota because I don't think anybody was super excited for that offense. But Mikey did win that one. Okay, so we kind of talked about this one earlier. Which rookie wide receiver would score the most points? Todd, you won that one. Garrett Wilson, 154 points. Mikey had Christian Watson, 126. I went with Dotson from the Commanders, and he had 98. So way to go, Todd.
Woo! Yeah.
He knows his rookie wide receivers. Second board bet, Pittman, would he finish as a top 12 wide receiver? Todd and Eric said yes. Mikey said no, and he would finish 18th. So way to go. Miguel was correct. And Kevin was wrong on that front too.
Yep.
I'm just going to throw that in there. And the last board bet, Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore. Eric and Mikey went Elijah Moore. Todd went Garrett Wilson, and the winner was Todd Diamond. See, you know how to do your board bets.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Todd.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
you are a winner. Now, you didn't win an MHA trivia. I only listened to the post draft. So I didn't do through the regular season, but Mikey was 6-0 at that point. So
Todd did beat me. I remember
he did beat you once.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it was mostly Miguel.
Yeah, it wasn't that special.
Oh man. All right. So before we get out of here, we let Kevin get back to his thing over there in California. My last question for you guys is who's going to win the Super Bowl? Will it be the Eagles? Will it be the Chiefs? And I'll just say it's going to be the Eagles because I was so down on them at the beginning of the year that they're going to make me even look stupider by winning the whole thing. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to win. Kevin, who are you picking?
I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Any particular reason?
The Eagles really haven't faced any difficult challenges this season. And like the one time they were faced with adversity when Hurts got injured, they were bad. So I think Mahomes, his experience in the playoffs, the Chiefs, their experience in Super Bowls will help them take down the Eagles.
Now, Mikey, you said something to me similar to that, where they kind of had an easy ride in the NFC playoffs. Is that true? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, they faced, and okay, I'll give kudos to the Giants. They had a good season, but I'm not sold on the Giants. I don't think the Giants were that good. And San Francisco, they lost their quarterback in the first, after the first 2 minutes, and they couldn't throw the ball. I mean, you saw like Christian McCaffrey try and throw; it was awful.
That was something else, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't think that they're tested. I agree with Kevin. I would pick Kansas City just because I think they have better coach, better quarterback.
All right, Todd, who you picking?
I'm going with the Eagles, 35-28.
Wow, he has a score ready and everything. Wow, you've been thinking about this. So why them? Why do you pick them over the Chiefs?
Well, I just think I like the Eagles defense just a little bit more. I mean, obviously Chris Jones has been tearing it up the last few games in the playoffs, but I just think overall, I like the Eagles defense just a smidge more than I do Kansas City. And I think at the end of the day, now granted, Mahomes is going to has 2 weeks now to kind of get healed up and everything. Because I think if they didn't have 2 weeks, and you definitely try to go for the injury. But I just think the Eagles defense is just a little bit I think it's just a little bit better, and I think they can if they get to Mahomes and put some pressure on him. I mean, because the Bengals did a little bit of that, obviously, in the AFC Championship game. So I'll go with the Eagles, 35-28.
And you guys, if you get the chance, you really should look at the Eagles' schedule this year.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad. Like that, they really have not been tested by like quality quarterback play the entire season.
So I mean, I'm assuming you're looking at the schedule now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Who's the toughest quarterback they faced this year?
The toughest one that they probably faced. I mean, they faced Kirk Cousins in week 2. That was at home.
They played Rodgers week 12.
Yeah. I don't count him as a good quarterback.
Yeah, not this year's Rodgers. I mean, Dak, they lost that game because they didn't have Jalen Hurts.
And like the first time they played the Cowboys, Dak wasn't playing too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the rest of this, like Washington twice, of course, the Giants twice. But they had like Indy, Tennessee, Chicago, Houston, Pittsburgh, Arizona. Like, it's not murderer's row. New Orleans.
Yeah, maybe you're right. You're probably right. So Patrick Mahomes, arguably one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So we'll see what they have in store.
I'll take Patrick Mahomes on one leg over Jalen Hurts.
There you go. Anybody over Gardner Minshew who beat me in the fantasy playoffs, which was so stupid, but that's how it goes sometimes. Well, gentlemen, there you go. That's it. This will be the last podcast for a while. We may do one possibly around the NFL draft. We'll see how that goes. We did it a little later last year, kind of closer to July, but we'll kind of see how it goes. But there you have it. Thank Kevin. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. We love having you on. I'm proud of you. I'm glad you're doing great things over there in Cali, you and the missus. So thanks for taking the time and hanging out with us today.
Yeah, it was fun to come on. I'd like to do this more next season as time allows.
Well, you are more than welcome to come on at any time. Just give me a holler. We'll try to set up a time that works for everyone. Todd and Mikey, of course. We just finished our 22nd year in this MHA league. It goes back a long time, so hopefully keep things going, having a good time. So thank you guys for coming on, and thank you owners for tuning in all season long. We had fun on the message board. Of course, Kevin actually brought that to our attention, so it was great to talk a little smack. Maybe get a little more next year.
It just adds a little something.
Yeah, I love that type of stuff because, I mean, when something goes crazy or something happens, let's talk crap. We're all really, really good friends here, and so we have a good time. So
like those ties.
Yeah, that's something we'll talk about in the off season. I promise you, Kay. We'll see what everybody votes on. So for Kevin Hall, Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, I'm Eric Lansing. We'll see you next year on the MHA podcast.